Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our company accountant monthly special interest group meeting again. Today, we have a great honor to bring Quinn here with us. John is the first time to be with us, so when I got his profile, there are a few sentences on the top of the page called the attention of me. I would like to share with everyone here. So that is a quote from Mark Twain. It says, "The mind is a wonderful thing. It starts working the minute you are born, and it never stops until you are asked to make a presentation." So does that sound like you? Sometimes, yeah. That's why we bring John here tonight. So just give a little brief about John. John grows up in Ireland, and he has been living and working in Dubai for many years. So he created his own company, Audience Live in Dubai. And in 2015, he made a big decision to move his family to New Zealand. So now they live in Queenstown. So let's welcome John to give us the presentation today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lucy. Thank you very much, and it's great to be here. And I'm going to talk to you this afternoon about unlocking the secrets of data presentation, as you can read there. Now, data. How much data have we created as humans over the past 5 years? Does anyone know? We've created more data over the past 5 years than we have in all of human history. So big data is a challenge, and getting information across is a challenge. So my name's Quinn, and I'm a presentologist. You met one of those before? No? Everybody loves anology, don't they? Yeah, anology is a good thing. It was actually a CEO who called us the presentologists. He said, "Bring the presentologists, I need some help. Yeah, my data is a problem, and communication and the way I'm communicating is a problem." And I'm going to show you some of the slides that we worked on for him as we move through the course of this afternoon. But really, if I was to sum up presentology or presentation, improving presentations in one slide, then this would be it. What do you see up there? You see an audience who are engaged. Yeah, are they looking at their phones? No. Yeah, they're pretty engaged. It looks like a deal's being done, doesn't it? Yeah, there's a handshake going on. So my objective by improving presentations is to try and help you strike a deal. Now, that may be asking someone to marry you, for example. That's a tough presentation, isn't it? But very often in business, it's more about not getting fired. Yeah, delivering a good deal, getting the information across, or closing an order. But presenting generally is something that's can impact heavily on our careers. Better presentations help people move faster through organizations. So presenters are more likely, better presenters are more likely to be moved quicker through an organization. So by doing that, we can help a lot. If we take a quick snapshot of the presentation world as it currently stands, on the left-hand side, you'll see that there are a huge amount of presentations going on every day somewhere in the world. That accounts to almost 350 presentations going on every second somewhere in the world. That's a lot of bullet points, isn't it? That's a lot of slides, yeah? Are you using Prezi, or have you tried Google Slides, or maybe Canva? There are some other tools out there as well. But when's the last time you really tooled up on PowerPoint? When's the last time you really learned to make better PowerPoint? How to work on improving it? Well, I'm hoping that some of the slides that I show you this afternoon will make you want to look back at what you're doing and how you do it. So you can see that a huge amount of companies don't really review what they've got. You know, we're still working on maybe our lessons learned at university. Yeah, when we last put a dissertation together, that's the last time you worked on something or improved your PowerPoint. But very often it's used as a day-to-day tool, but not really used very well. And you can see on the right-hand side, the stats on the right-hand side show us that, you know, if we create an engagement, if we engage audiences more, and if we kind of connect with them, then the memory retention level goes up as well. So we're trying to get that information across. By the way, this started off as a slide with a list of bullet points, yeah, and that's what we did with it. So I'm going to show you some other examples of that sort of thing as we go through. What we have to do is change the norm, yeah, and what is the norm when people stand up to present? Well, this is the norm, yeah. Do you recognize this? Yeah, if I was to start off today and say, I'm very sorry, everyone, but I'm a little bit nervous. Please excuse me. I just threw these few bullet points together for you, and I hope you're going to help me. It's today's agenda. We're going to look at making better presentations. How do you think? Is it good? Would you be happy if I started off that way? Yeah. Reading my slides. Yeah. So one of the number one mistakes we see people making is putting what they're going to say up on the screen and then reading it. If I start to read my slides to you, I insult all of you. I tell you you can't read for yourselves, yeah? So the best thing I could do if I'm going to read is to be quiet and let you read it, yeah? Which would give me time to think about what I'm going to talk about next. So reading your slides is one of the main mistakes we see people making. What other reason does this scream PowerPoint to us? Any other reasons? Any other ideas why? What about the picture? It's a pretty stock-looking picture, isn't it? Somebody's nicked it off the web somewhere. They probably don't have the rights to use it, but it's kind of a stock-looking picture. What is the treatment on the picture? It's got a default treatment to it. It's got rounded edges and a reflection underneath it. So that says PowerPoint. That's a PowerPoint default image. And it says, I chose the default. I don't care. That's what it says. Yeah. The visual hierarchy of the slide says I've got bullet points on the left-hand side, I've got a picture on the right-hand side, and my beautiful logo that I spent a lot of money on is stuck, lost, forlorn, unloved in the bottom right-hand corner. But marketing tell us that's what we have to do, isn't it? This is every slide ever. So I want you to think outside the square here. I want you to think of another way of doing this. And I'm going to show you what I've learned really from working on over 27,000 slides. That's how many slides we've created since 2001. Yeah, we're up on our 27,000 slide for Rothbury we're working on right now. So I really want to give you the benefit of that and sort of explain that. Before we do that, let's have a look at some of the bad. This is a real slide from a real customer. They said, can you make it look better? And I said, hell yes, we can delete it and start all over again. Yeah, let's delete and start again. What's wrong with it? What's right with it? Nothing. What's wrong with it? Poor use of fonts, poor use of graphics, poor use of color. Yes, for sure. And what about that graph? Look at that graph. Isn't that stunning? Who doesn't love a good pie chart, eh? But is it really communicating? No. It's 3D, it's ugly. Yeah, it can't even see what's going on here. Yeah, so colors. This is what happens if you apply no logic to it and you just throw anything in it. Believe me, this is a real slide from a real customer. If I now move on to another slide, you might think that this is a bit ugly and extreme and Comic Sans and some horrible fonts are in there, but this is another real slide from a real customer. You can, if you look hard enough, you can find out who it is. Might take you a while. So finance and IT are some of the worst, yeah, people at doing this. Yeah, over medical also at overpopulating data. Now I said to the CEO when he showed me this, I said, are you taking this slide externally? Because I can understand that this would work internally. Because I'm not against all forms of PowerPoint. I'm not just the big picture guy, like delete everything and just use a big picture. I believe in good data. I believe in data presented well. There is a political party in Switzerland who are called the Anti-PowerPoint Party, and I am a member. I am anti-bad PowerPoint. I think bad PowerPoint is a bad idea, but PowerPoint used well can be very powerful, and I want to show you how we can do that. What do you get from this slide? Ask yourself. Because when he asked me, what do you think people get from this if I take it externally, I could only be honest with him and said, Smarties and M&Ms. I couldn't see any other communication from it. unless I was inside the organization. And that's one of the challenges, is that people, and very often you're too close to your own data. And you can't step back and say, hang on a minute, let's keep this simple. Let's make this simple. See, there's a lot of knowledge on this slide. But what do people want from us? They want wisdom. What is the difference between knowledge and wisdom? Do you know that a tomato is a fruit? It is. If knowledge is knowing that tomato is a fruit, wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad. Yeah? So are you knowledgeable or are you wise? Because surely as accountants you're paid to be wise. Yeah? Or you're learning to be as wise as you can. So why are you presenting all of the data? We want access to the data, but we don't want all of it on the screen at the one time. And the wisdom is in filtering and removing a lot of the data and still having access to it. The problem is no one will tell you you're bad at this. When's the last time you went into a meeting room and sat down with a colleague and said, I've got a big presentation to do at a conference next week. I need you to come in and give me some feedback on how good or bad I am. Like in every corporate, never. That never happens. People do not review and really spend time. Generally what happens is that procrastination kills presentations. People leave it to the last minute and stand up, as I did at the start, and apologize. And they think that that's okay. It's not okay. We need to improve, yeah? Audiences are voting with their feet. They're either leaving the room or mentally leaving. So you've got to be more engaging and connect with them. And this is really important to understand. Is anyone going to admit they have ugly children in the room? I don't think so. Yeah? Your slides are your children. Yeah? You put your effort into them. Yeah? But you won't admit it. Yeah? And no one's going to admit it, that I really need to review it. So those are some of the problems. In the next few minutes, I'd like to show you 7 ways that you can change that. We'll start off simple and we'll move through and use some quite in-depth techniques. Sometimes out of a talk like this comes the need for people to actually get together in a room with their laptop and learn how to do this. And we do that as well. We can teach you. We can step you through step by step. But I'll just want to show you just 7 ways that we can change this. By the way, everything I am showing you right now is native PowerPoint. There is no plugins, no fancy Prezi, no nothing. It's just using the tools that are within normal PowerPoint. So first and foremost, this is what Dubai Tourism would give us as a slide to improve. So this is the before. Now look at that logo in the bottom right hand corner. That is a $250,000 logo. Arabic from right to left and English from left to right. Why is it stuck, lost and alone down there? So what did we do to it? We created some motion and some animation to actually tell the story before we introduce the logo. So my first tip for you is to celebrate your logo. Celebrate whatever your brand is and put it up nice and front and center. Let's have a look at that again. So we did some motion. That's a shrink. Those are wipes. That's a move. The logo's been split up into different parts and we're wiping it onto the screen. So up front, we've got a big, nice, simple communication and get the message across who's who before we step down into the presentation. Here's another customer of ours. We're spending time animating the logo. Why? Because the logo tells us a story as it animates onto the slide. Just before we've even started, the first thing we're going to communicate is this is who we are and we're going to celebrate our brand, yeah, before we actually get going. Then again, you can bring the colors and the look of your logo and your style into the actual presentation. So notice no bullet points, nice use of pictures and imagery. And you say, okay, this is great for marketing, but where's the data? Where's the graphs? Where's the line art? Yeah, we'll come on to those as we step through. But here, they're talking about their people. So the logo and the branding should work together to build the template of your slide. And please stop using the defaults in PowerPoint. All those default layouts, we've seen them before. Yeah, you have to design your own. You have to have your own look and feel. We generally find that people are communicating too much. Yeah, so trying to stick to the rule of thirds, or three, is very important. If you think about it, wise men, musketeers, white mice, it wasn't Goldilocks and the Six Bears, yeah? Traffic lights, there's something about three that audiences love. I want to talk to you today about three things, yeah? Three is powerful, yeah? So try to use it as much as you can. Divide whatever you're communicating down into three and talk about three different areas. Audiences love it. The human brain loves it. We can handle three pieces of information at once. We don't want 27 bullet points on a slide. We want three big points, or try to give us three pieces of information. Here's an example, an $8 million PowerPoint. Why do I call it an $8 million PowerPoint? Because the company that used all of their intellectual property put it into the PowerPoint presentation to pitch for sale. So this is a bid presentation, and it netted them $8 million. So I want you to stop thinking of PowerPoint as a tool for presenting to people. PowerPoint is a media mixer that mixes together thoughts and images, stories, text, video, media, audio, and pulls it together to help you tell your story. PowerPoint will now coach you. There's a coach in PowerPoint that will listen to you. PowerPoint will live translate for you. I was in Toastmasters 2 nights ago. 20 Chinese students walked in, and I switched on live translation. And it live listened to me and put Chinese straight up onto the screen underneath. And every one of them said, 75% I could understand. It's never going to get 100%, but they understood live. So that's available in Office 365, the latest version, if you've got the early release. But it's coming to all of you. Yeah? Imagine the power of being able to switch on live translation. You could be speaking in Chinese and presenting in Spanish. Very, very powerful. Yeah, just that in its own right. Imagine you're traveling to Saudi Arabia and you can talk in English and present your underneath in Arabic. So that type of stuff is coming down the line to you. There's a research assistant coming in PowerPoint which will live research a subject for you and present data within it. Yeah. So Microsoft have been working very hard on some of the new features that are coming your way. So, and by the way, I'm not being paid by Microsoft. Okay. I love Prezi. I love Google Slides as well. But PowerPoint has got 97% market share. Yeah. So it's the de facto standard. Yeah. If anybody wants to give me another example, even if you're out there in the web and you've got other examples of, I've seen some beautiful Prezis as well. Prezi is another type of presentation tool, but generally Microsoft is then looking at it, and if you use Zoom in PowerPoint, you can also create the same look as Prezi. So it's really the de facto standard. So the Dabo girls came up with 3 ideas and then focused in on that in terms of their communication. Again, here you see a little bit of movement. Some people think movement and animation is distracting, but the brain is definitely attracted to movement. It likes some movement, not too much, yeah, just enough to communicate what's going on. But by showing you these slides, I wanted to give you a few ideas as we go through. So what's next? Well, really getting rid of the cliches is one of the challenges we find, yeah, in putting presentations together. What do I mean by cliches? This is a cliche. This is before. What's cliche about it? The shape, yeah? It's a PowerPoint default smart art shape, yeah? There are other ones. There's the arrow. There's the pyramid. There's a Roman temple, yeah? They're all cliches. If you use them, you are cliche. You are the standard. You are the default. You don't care, is what it says to the audience. I don't care. I chose the default. This slide says, I don't care. This is a well-meaning person in marketing puts something like this together, and it means I don't care, because it's got no graphic design. It's got no element of working on it. Now, we spent 5 minutes on it, and this is what it turned into. So I'm not talking about rocket science here. I'm talking about removing the background from the picture. You see the picture has got a squareness to it. By removing the background, you get this look and feel. You can do that in PowerPoint. You don't have to leave PowerPoint. You don't need to become a Photoshop expert to do that. That's available right in every version of PowerPoint. Click on a picture, top left-hand corner, it says remove background. You can remove the background from a picture. So, and we put the text, instead of into the PowerPoint shape, we put it into text boxes. Yeah, just a slight difference to create something in 5 or 10 minutes that looks totally different. Right now, sitting in TVNZ, there's somebody building a slide or something like this for tonight's news, and you can do it in PowerPoint. Let's have a look at it again. There's a little bit of movement in the background, and then the people are in the foreground. By removing the background from the picture and shrinking the picture slightly behind, you create what's called a pull focus effect. Yeah, and graphic designers are paid and shown how to do this. I can teach you this in 20 minutes, how to do such a thing. Yeah, and it will change the way your slides look and the way people use it and move it. So getting rid of the cliches, and that was just one example of many of them. But one of the most tectonic changes that you can make is by getting rid of bullet points. I'm talking about the round black dot in PowerPoint. Why is it called a bullet point? I'm from Belfast. There's enough bullets in the world, especially from Belfast in Northern Ireland as well. I would like you to become bulletproof. I would like you to ban the bullet and get rid of the bullet point. So what I'd like you to all think about right now is taking the pledge that I promise to never use a bullet point again. I'm talking about the round black dot, the white dot, the diamond, the tick. I'm talking about all of those. You're never going to use one of those again after tonight. Too hard? Whoa, we can't do that. Not a chance. We need those. Yeah? I've got no problem with segmented text. But by getting rid of bullet points and by adding an icon in, it will change the look and feel of your slides. Because we need to improve the numbers and get the numbers across, but get the information across better. Because if you think of this guy and this device, what was it? Does anybody know what it was? The iPod, yeah? How many gigabytes did it have? It was a 5 gigabyte MP3 player, which approximately could get 1,000 songs on it. And he famously referred to it as this, 1,000 songs in your pocket. He refused the concept of 5 gigabytes. Because what is a gigabyte? Does anybody know? Can you relate to it? We can now, but in 2006, I think this was, you couldn't relate to it. So that's making sense of numbers and showing numbers in another way. Another practical example would be, here's the fastest computer in the world. It's made by IBM and Roadrunner. It's a supercomputer, and it runs at 1 petaflop. What the hell is a petaflop? Anybody know what a petaflop is? Anyone out there? Anyone can tell us what a petaflop is? A flop is not a flip-flop, a flop, an operation of computer time, yeah? Something, the speed of a computer, right? And a peta is, speak Greek? You all speak Greek, don't you? Geek and Greek. Yeah, kilo, mega, giga, peta. Yeah, it's how we grow. It's 3 zeros for each one of those, yeah? So a petaflop, if I was to describe it to you in another way, you would have to have this amount of computers, of today's fastest computers, laptops, stacked on top of one another to create a petaflop of power. Does that make more sense to you now? I've described it visually to you. And if I stack them on top of one another, be it probably 1.5 miles, 3 kilometers high. Does that make sense? Not really, does it? If you stack 1,000 laptops on top of one another, do they make sense? Is it 1.5 miles? No, it's not. So here's the crazy thing about this. This is where you can, they're called factoids. And they don't even have to be true. You can make them up. Now, I know you guys don't get to make stuff up very often, right? But this is your chance, okay? You can create wow facts, yeah? Through just being loosely right, yeah? So here's a couple of examples for you, okay? These gentlemen have lighting towers, and that's enough light to do this. Yeah, big numbers, interesting to the audience. They also create compressed air to rent to people. They've got all this number of air compressors, which if you used it all would be enough to do this. Is anybody going to argue with you? No, the fact's quite amazing. It's quite interesting to people. It's a big number, and everybody's going, wow, 2,000 balloons. That's amazing, yeah? So we're trying to create some level of interest from the data. So people are starting to switch on to this, and these are the sort of slides that are being given to us. What's wrong with this? too much information. Yeah, too much. There are 4 or 5 slides here on one. So too much data. This person is data loading and putting a lot, and they're getting the point because they're using some of the data and they're presenting it in a nice way. But this is what we did to it. Again, some movement because the eye likes some movement to introduce it, what the subject may be about, before we then come into just identifying one of those points, which is the 35 years. And this is how we did it. Big. The font size is 115 here. What is your optimum font size on a PowerPoint slide? Has anyone ever thought of this? Okay, I'll give you 3 numbers. 10, 20, and 30. Pardon? 30 is the minimum font size. 20 is the number of minutes your presentation should last. And 10 is the maximum number of points you should make. 10 points delivered in 20 minutes with no font size less than 30. Why is 30 a good number? Find out who the oldest person is in the room. Divide his or her age by 2. That is your optimum font size. Unless you're presenting to 18-year-olds, stop using the 9-point font. Be appropriate to the age in the room. I'm 51 and already my eyesight's going. Can you imagine? So 35 would be ideal. Yeah, because if that's who you're pitching to, then those are the font sizes. It also forces you to put less information on the slide, and you have to actually know what you're talking about, not read off the slides. So 10, 20, 30 rule of PowerPoint is one of the common, Google it, you'll find out that it's a thing that people are actually doing. So this is 35 years, big font size, but also the icon is from within PowerPoint. Insert icons. It's in Office 365. It's right there. Yeah, there are different places you can go to get them. That little link I can give to you later as well is I've got 1,500 icons for you, but just search for icons, and there is a whole library within PowerPoint under Insert an Icon. You can start to tell stories, yeah, with an icon and with infographics. Yeah, here's an example. This was the CEO who called us presentologists. He asked us to come in and talk to him, and this was his challenge. This is a slide he had, and he was wrestling with presenting. He wanted to get the point across that data growth was growing and the number of internet users was growing. And this is what he was stuck on. He had to stand up in front of people, and he didn't want to present this. He wanted to tell a story. And I said, what is a story? And he said, well, the data growth is growing so much in the world that if you imagine a Maasai warrior with an old Nokia phone, he had access to more information than Ronald Reagan did during his entire tenure as president. If we now give him a smartphone, he has access to more information than Clinton did. And that is what his slide became. It went from the graph to the infographic story. Now the graph was still there and still available and was downloadable as a PDF for everyone at the conference. They wanted him to have it, but he didn't present the graph. He told the story behind the data. Does that make sense? Is that something you could maybe consider in what you're doing? Try to look for what the story is behind it, because the story is way more emotive to the audience than the data. They want the data, and give them the data by all means, but don't necessarily present it or consider not presenting it. So you can then start, once you start playing with infographics, the world is your oyster. Believe me, on screen we get given stuff like this, and this is what we do with it. So this is for Bailey and Eves. That's an infographic, just one big picture put in and made really huge. Infographics are vector-based, which means you can make them huge. You can really scale them up, so you can really create something interesting. You all have a table like this somewhere, yeah, that desperately needs help. What can we do with it? Better? Worse? Or would you prefer to stick with this? It's up to you. I don't mind. I would prefer this if I was in the audience. Oh, the graph. Don't you just love PowerPoint graphs? Yeah, stick it in there. Hopefully it's going to communicate. What are we going to do with it? They want the graph. It has to stay. Yeah, we cannot get rid of it. Don't change it. Yeah, we want the data. The data is important. What can we do to make it interesting? Well, what do you think? If you're pushed, hopefully it's slightly better. Maybe you don't like her. That's okay. She could be a bit annoying, couldn't she? Yeah, but an image, a big image with a graph can make quite a big impact. Take the big number, the YOY. Yeah, you put it, put that there and make it really on mark. But try not to just go with the standard graph. Here we've got a list of bullet points. And let's add some imagery. Remember, humans love imagery. We especially love images of people. And this is what you can do with infographics. So these are all infographics from the library that are available now. And you can see that, yeah, it's just another way of presenting the same information. More interesting. I personally wanted the crane to swing round. I wanted it to move. So I said, okay, well, maybe we can do that with this slide. And you can see here again, the colliers are getting it. They get the idea. Yeah, they're trying to do it. But this is the difference between if you do it yourself and if you come and learn a little bit about what you can do with it, then you can do something like this. So it's the same information, just presented slightly differently. And look at that little man. Isn't he cool? Yeah. Animated infographics. That's why some of you have gone to Prezi or to some of the other tools, because we want things to move. We want things to just create some level of interest. Yeah. But that's just a shape with another shape, and 3 shapes that is. And it communicates what we want, and it creates some sort of interest to the eye, because the eye enjoys it. So that's infographics. One of the most tectonic things you can do to your slides is adding infographics to them. But it doesn't stop there. Once you start putting that together, you can start to tell stories with it. And timelines are in every presentation. But we see them, but generally they're a list of 1978, 19 years and what happens. But if you do something like this, then it becomes way more interesting. This is a PowerPoint slide. You can send it to anyone and they can watch it. It will go through any firewall. It's better than any video. You can send it as a PPT to somebody and they'll open it up and see it. Yeah. So PowerPoint is a brilliant delivery mechanism. This is less than a megabyte. It's a small little file that you can send. And that's just one example. Here's a more simplistic example. You can see we're using the push transition to add in some more years as we step through. And here's an example from something we just did recently. So really simple content, really simple movements, just to get the message across of what's going on and what year. They just were at their conference last week, and these are a few slides just from their timeline, just showing you how it steps through and how it moves along to tell a story. Yeah, so really simple, big and simple, almost childish information is what people are interested in, yeah, in terms of communication. Now, I'm not saying that this is the only type of PowerPoint slide that you can build, yeah? There are lots, yeah? There are 12 uses for PowerPoint. There is PowerPoint that goes into a PDF document that's got all the data built into it, yeah? You need that as much as you need a one-to-many presentation, such as I'm doing today, or a one-to-one presentation over a coffee shop. But one size does not fit all. You need different types of presentations for different needs, yeah, and different requirements. And some of the other exciting things that are coming along are video. We've got a lot of work going on video and improving media. For example, here's something from Skyline. So this is a piece of video playing in the background, and then we zoom into the step through the presentation. So you've got the video playing in the background, and then you've got the PowerPoint in front. Imagine what you can do with this once you start using other types of video. And interactivity is becoming more and more as well, because if I click on any of those areas on the left-hand side, I can click down and jump down into the relevant part that I want to of the presentation. So sitting in a coffee shop, having a chat with somebody, it's almost like a digital brochure in terms of its use. So that's media. And last but not least, we have 3D. So you could now take your audience on a journey through a tree, for example, or any sort of 3D object, because the heart here is actually an object within PowerPoint. We can spin it around, move it, get into it, move it around. It's very engaging for audiences. So you could maybe do a 3D journey through a graph for example, or you could create a story using 3 dimensions. So have a look at it again in Office 365. It's right there, and it's going to be changing the way people tell stories and make presentations. So those are 7 ways that you can maybe make some changes and try something different. I'm kind of just keen to sort of show you some of the other things, that movements. It's across all industries. So tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock we have a review meeting down at the port and revamping all of their slides, and there's a huge amount of data to get across in that. So it could be ports, it could be medical, it could certainly be financial. So all industries can do with improving this as we step through. So just a few other examples. Cool. So don't be afraid to change and disrupt the norm. I mentioned that earlier, yeah? Don't be afraid to try something different, yeah? Because if you keep it as the norm, then everybody's just going to expect the same thing. So in summary, in my last 16 seconds, I'd really like to say that if you think about it, you don't really get a newspaper, you get news. You don't really get glasses, you get vision. You don't really get a mattress, you get sleep. And you don't really get a lamp, you get light. Well, if you use presentology, you don't really get a presentation, you get applause. Thank you very much. So please get in touch with us. By all means, our advice is completely free of charge. If you'd like a free presentation health check, just send it through to us. We love giving feedback on what you could do and how you could do it better. It probably will be the same as some other people, but we can definitely customize that as we go through. We've started to work. I saw Pimp My Garage going on around Auckland, and I thought, Pimp My Prezzo, is this a good name for a training course? I needed a Pimp My Presentation, please. Okay, we could look at how we could do a course around pimping your presentation. So please get in touch. And if you need my contact details, please feel free just to, if you've got an Apple phone, you can just point that at the screen. Even if you're out there on the web, you can just use your phone and point it at the screen and get my details. We need to use more QR codes. They're a great means of communication. It only works on Apple phones. You don't even need a QR code scanner. You just switch on your camera, point it at the screen, and it'll give you the details. So good. Any questions from the interweb are out there, or any questions?
There is John.
Sorry?
There is John.
Thank you.
So first of all, I've got to say the people on the web have absolutely loved your presentation. Unfortunately, we had buffering problems for about half of it. So there was a lot of frustration during the first half of your presentation, but the recording will be available
Great.
from tomorrow or the next day. So I have one comment and question from the web. Glenn says, I think a lot of what we hear these days is not true. It's hard to know what is and is not true anymore. I'm sure that goes a lot for presentations that we see. Question. How do we know what we hear is based on truth? Got any ideas on how to answer that?
I don't know. I feel like a preacher all of a sudden. I think I should be Brian Tamaki or somebody else. Yeah, I don't know. That sounds like a much bigger question to me. I mean, in my mind, I immediately think of, data that we see online. Yeah, should be somehow referenced to and cited. Yeah, is the word. So, if you use the new feature in PowerPoint, which is the web researcher, it allows you to go out and it gets information for you, and then the information is cited at the bottom. Yes, of course, I saw a quotation that said, "Don't believe everything you read on the internet," and it was signed by Sir Abraham Lincoln. You may have seen that before, but so it's a case of, we have to be careful and use our logic that what the information is we're using, does it make sense? And certainly I'm kind of joking with that about factoids, that factoids are essentially, not, they're general facts that don't, aren't specific. And you guys deal in facts, and, I'm sure you know where the data comes from. So I would turn that question back to you guys and say, how sure is your data? And how do you know your data is true? And how do we ever? Yeah. Not sure I answered it, but I gave it a go. One question at the front here, thank you.
Hi, John.
Hi.
What's your advice on some of us who might have access to the older version of Office and not the Office 365?
Cool. So
in terms of accessing the infographics and other cool
Yeah.
features.
go down and beat up IT. Say, come on, IT. It's 2019, yeah? So, I mean, like, you know, I meet people who've got PowerPoint 2010, and I'm like, really? 2010? You know, 2013, maybe? You know, look, from 2013 on, there were some dramatic changes, you know, so you'll find that picture background removal tool is right there in 2010. But certainly some of the new features, I think that, I don't know, have a crystal ball about what's going on in Microsoft, but I can see that there's a huge amount of effort on PowerPoint as a product. I mean, I don't see the same sort of efforts, for example, in Excel, although you can insert an icon across the whole Office suite, you know, so you'll find that it'll be right there, insert icons. And the icon library is the sort of thing that people really need to get rid of the bullet points. But I would suggest that, you know, you can find icons. I will give you 1,500 icons that are royalty free if you know, make contact with me. So there are areas to go and do this externally. You can take the background off a picture in Photoshop if you really needed to do that. So, you know, these techniques we've been using for years, and now Microsoft want you to stay within the environment of Office and be able to do those sort of things rather than head off to do them. So you can go outside to get them, but as you upgrade the versions, you'll find that they're all right there within it. But quite often I see people using their own devices. You know, so they'll have a work machine and then they'll have the personal laptop for presentations, and I see people doing that, you know. Office 365 is really reasonably priced now. It's not a big cost, and a lot of people have it already on their own laptop. And I understand you can't, you know, apply that to work policy computers, but yeah, it's quite easy, and a lot of it is backwardly compatible. This is, I think, Yale and the guys are running 2016 here, and all this was made in Office 365, and it all comes back in no problem. So a lot of the movements will. So cool. I hope I gave you a few ideas there, but get in touch and we'll help for sure. Any other thoughts and questions? Disagree? Yeah, I'm around. I'm not going anywhere. If anybody wants to ask anything afterwards, I'm really looking forward. I'm normally on second because nobody wants to go on after a presentologist. Yeah, funny enough, because I'm talking about getting rid of bullet points. So I apologize to the next speaker if there's any bullet points in their presentation. We can't cure everybody, and he didn't hear me before. So thank you very much, everyone, and thanks for your time.
Well, it's a fabulous presentation, right? I hope everyone enjoyed that. Let's give 5 minutes break, and then we'll come back for the next session. Thank you.